In 50 years, the ancient world's greatest empires vanished almost all at once. Around 1177 BC, a connected, glittering civilization fell apart faster than anyone can fully explain. By the end, I'll show you why one theory keeps historians up at night, because we might be repeating it. Picture the Eastern Mediterranean around 1250 BC. This isn't a scatter of isolated tribes. It's a network. The Egyptians in the south, the Hittites ruling Anatolia, what's now Turkey, the Mycenae and Greeks with their stone fortresses, the wealthy trading cities of the Levant like Ugarit, and Babylon and Assyria out east. These powers wrote letters to each other. They called each other brother. They traded, intermarried, and formed alliances. It was, in a real sense, the world's first globalized system. And here's the thing that made it work and eventually broke it. It ran on bronze. Bronze was everything. Weapons, armor, tools, plows, cooking pots. Whoever had bronze had power. But bronze isn't a single metal you dig up. It's an alloy. You mix copper with tin, roughly 9 parts copper to 1 part tin, and that ratio is the hidden crack in the whole system. Copper was fairly common. Tin was not. The nearest big tin sources were far away, places like Afghanistan, thousands of miles overland. So to make the metal that ran your entire economy, you needed long, fragile trade routes crossing dozens of borders. Cut those routes and the most advanced weapons on Earth become useless lumps. Keep that in your mind, it matters. Now the horror. Starting around 1200 BC, city after city burns, not over centuries, over roughly one human lifetime. Archaeologists dig these sites and find the same story again and again. A layer of ash, collapsed walls, bronze arrowheads still stuck in the rubble. The mighty city of Ugarit is destroyed and never rebuilt. The Hittite capital, Hattusa, is abandoned and torched. The Mycenaean palaces in Greece fall and their writing system, called Linear B, simply stops. Think about that. People forget how to write. Greece enters a dark age so deep that centuries later they'll tell stories about heroes like those at Troy without really knowing that world was ever real. Populations crash, trade dynasties. The lights go out across an entire region. So who did it? For a long time the answer was dramatic: the Sea Peoples. Egyptian records describe waves of invaders coming by sea and land, burning everything in their path. Pharaoh Ramesses III carved a boast onto a temple wall, claiming he beat them back. But even he admits they had already wiped out the Hittites in the Levant. The Egyptians didn't even know exactly who these people were. They just called them the peoples of the sea. It's a great villain. Faceless raiders in ships torching the ancient world. Case closed, right? Except modern historians think the Sea Peoples aren't really the answer. They might be a symptom, not the cause. Here's the problem with blaming invaders. If it were just raiders, why did everything collapse at once, everywhere, and stay collapsed for centuries? Raids happen. Cities get sacked and rebuilt all the time. This was different. This was total. So researchers went looking for what could break an entire interconnected system at the same moment. And they found several things happening together. First, climate. Studies of ancient pollen and sediment show a long, brutal drought hitting the region right around this time. Decades of failed rains. Less water means less grain. Less grain means famine. And a real letter survives from a Hittite king begging for emergency shipments of grain, calling it a matter of life and death. The breadbasket was failing. Now stack the pressures. Drought causes famine. Famine causes desperate people to move looking for food, and some of those migrants become your Sea Peoples. Hungry populations riot or flee, so cities lose their labour. Fewer workers, less production. Meanwhile, remember bronze? Those long trade routes get disrupted by all the chaos. Tin stops arriving, so the states can't make new weapons or tools. Add earthquakes. Geologists found evidence of a cluster of major quakes shaking the region in this exact window, cracking those big palace walls. And here's the killer insight. These civilizations were highly centralized. Everything ran through the palace. The palace controlled the food, the trade, the writing, the army. That made them efficient. It also made them fragile. Pull out one support and the whole structure leans on the next one. When they all fail together, there's no backup. The system doesn't bend, it shatters. Historians call this systems collapse. Not one blow, but a cascade. The aftermath is haunting. Writing disappears in Greece for around 400 years. Grand Palace cultures give way to smaller, poorer villages. International trade shrinks to almost nothing. But it's not all darkness. In the wreckage, something new grows. With tin roots broken and bronze scarce, people were forced to work with a metal that was harder to smelt but far more common: iron. The Bronze Age didn't just end, its collapse pushed humanity into the Iron Age. And the alphabet used by the Phoenicians, simpler than the old palace scripts, spread and eventually became the ancestor of the letters you're reading right now. Sometimes a system has to break before a better one can take its place. So why does this keep historians awake? Because the Bronze Age world looked a lot like ours in one crucial way. It was deeply interconnected. Everyone depended on everyone else. Long supply chains for critical resources. Wealth concentrated in a few complex hubs. Efficient until it wasn't. When the shocks came, climate, disruption, migration, the very connections that made them rich also spread the collapse from city to city like a chain of dominoes. We build tightly linked systems because they're efficient, but efficiency and resilience pull in opposite directions. The Bronze Age didn't collapse because people were primitive. It collapsed because they were advanced, connected, and fragile all at once. A whole world went dark in about 50 years, and it took centuries to come back. The unsettling part isn't how different they were from us, it's how similar. So here's my question for you. Is our connected world stronger than theirs was, or just better at hiding the same cracks? Tell me in the comments.